Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to postpone a vote last week on the $1.5 trillion so-called infrastructure bill because the left-wing party of the party wanted it tied to passage of the bigger, more wasteful $3.5 trillion reconciliation measure, which Pelosi says is for human infrastructure. Now, the holdup is two Senate moderates, both Democrats, Senator Manchin of West Virginia and Senator Sinema of Arizona. Now, last week, as I mentioned, Senator Manchin said the massive bill had to have restrictions on taxpayer funding of abortion or he wouldn't support it. As you just heard, the left is not in favor. In fact, Congresswoman Jaya Paul had this to say, and more to say actually, about this over the weekend.
Can you vote for a bill that has the Hyde Amendment in it?
No.
So what happens? How do you...
I mean, this is a negotiation, and we've got to continue to move this forward. But the Hyde Amendment is something that the majority of the country does not support.
With me now to correct the record is Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. He serves on the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, as well as the Committee on Finance. He also chairs the Senate Values Action Team. Senator Lankford, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you again, Tony, to help set the record straight.
Yeah, I want to start right where she left off, that a majority of Americans oppose the Hyde Amendment. The polling I've seen for several years running is counter to that.
Yeah, overwhelmingly, Americans support the Hyde Amendment. Even the guy named Senator Joe Biden supported the Hyde Amendment when he was in the Senate. Let's be very clear what the Hyde Amendment is. The Hyde Amendment says we won't use federal tax dollars to take the life of children. We can ask over and over again across the fruited plain, do you support using your federal tax dollars to provide abortion for women? And overwhelmingly, those numbers say no on that. Now, even that's with a divided nation, that some would say they're pro-choice, but they don't believe that federal tax dollars should be used or be compelled to be able to come from people that are pro-life to be able to be used for the taking of life. Healthcare is about preserving life. Abortion is about taking life. So this is not a healthcare issue. This is all about, are we going to use federal tax dollars to pay for abortion? And I would say adamantly no, we shouldn't have abortion at all.
Well, the latest poll numbers I saw from earlier in the year, a Marist poll, 58% of Americans say they oppose taxpayer funding of abortion, while 38% support it. That is very similar to a 2016 Politico Harvard poll that found essentially the same numbers, 58-36. And that's not even, in today's world, that's not close. So right. You're absolutely right. But let me ask you this. Is the president's big, $3.5 trillion or $4.3, depending on whose numbers you look at, is it in jeopardy over this issue of taxpayer funding of abortion?
I would hope that it would be in jeopardy over this. This big $3.5 trillion package is really a new entitlement package is what it is. This is new entitlements stacked on the entitlements that we already have in our government, and they're wanting to basically throw out everything that they possibly can to be able to put their socialist political agenda out there. One of those things being that they want to have more abortions in America. To be very clear, the progressive side, and they've been very clear on this over the last even 72 hours with the Women's March and everything else, they're not just pro-choice, they are pro-abortion. They want people to go tell their abortion stories and encourage more people to do abortions. Joe Biden has been the most pro-abortion president our nation has ever had, and it's not even close how far he is leaning into the abortion issue. And so what we're trying to be able to make very clear is we stand on the value and life of every baby. And I think that's the right place to be able to stand, is that every child is precious, not only in God's sight, but it should be precious in the sight of our community.
Have you had conversations with Senator Manchin about this?
I have, actually. He's been pretty outspoken on it. As you know, I ran a Hyde Amendment bill, and when we did the previous reconciliation, he was the only Democrat that voted with me during that time period as well. And so we were able to pass a protection for the Hyde Amendment in the Senate just a month ago. But Joe's been pretty outspoken to say he hasn't moved on this. The left has moved. He's not the one that's moved. Again, I go back to Joe Biden. When he was in the Senate, he supported the Hyde Amendment. So Manchin is the one who's actually remained consistent in this. The left has just gone a lot farther left, and Manchin has dug in and said it's dead on arrival if it comes over and doesn't have Hyde protections on it.
He has not been ambivalent at all on this, and I see him as holding that ground.
I do too, and as well he should, and other Democrats that are in the Senate that have historically voted for Hyde protections I think they should continue to be able to vote Hyde protections as well. But right now, Manchin's the only one that's speaking out on that.
I want to switch to another topic that you've been leading out on as well, and that is this issue of the vaccine mandate. You've introduced a Stop the Vaccine Mandate Act. I want to get you to give us the details on it. But first, I want to play another clip of Dr. Fauci from this weekend. Clip 8, please.
We've had, I believe, Margaret, if I'm not mistaken, close to 1,000 or more universities are saying that if you want to be on campus with real-time classes, you really have to get vaccinated or you can't come. And there are businesses that are doing that. I mean, airlines, look at airlines, the mandate of the airlines, where you have now 99% of certain airlines employees are vaccinated.
Yeah.
So when you do that, when you tell people that there are alternatives, that if you do not want to get vaccinated, you're not going to work or you're not going to be able to go to school, I think that the emergent nature of what we're dealing with actually does justify that.
Well, alternatives, I think he means consequences, and he went on to talk about how he is happy that these private companies are taking these actions based upon the call for a mandate by President Biden. So get a jab or lose your job. How un-American is that?
Very, very un-American. We're the United States of America. We're not the People's Republic of China. We don't have demands that we put on every single citizen and say, you do this or you're out, you're going to lose your job. The Chinese say if you don't follow the Communist Party, you can't get a job, you can't ride on public transportation, you can't do those things. That's what they do all the time to their citizens. We are a free nation, that we encourage engagement. I've had the vaccine. My wife has had the vaccine. I encourage people to take the vaccine. It's very, very helpful, I believe. But that's a very different thing than saying we're going to actually mandate the vaccine on individuals, or to say you're going to lose your job or you can't have public service or whatever it may be. So the bill that I proposed basically does away with the president's executive order. But what's interesting to note on this, Tony, is so far all we have is a speech from the president on this. There is no Department of Labor regulation out there saying that if you're in a company of 100 or more, you have to all be vaccinated. That regulation does not exist. There's nothing in writing on it. It's a speech from the president. Even the Office of Personnel Management and Office of Management and Budget for federal employees and federal contractors, they're scrambling because the White House has put out no paperwork on it. That deadline to get the first of 2 vaccines, if you're going to do that, is within 2 weeks. They still don't have anything released out for them. This is only a speech from the president that they're trying to be able to push people and say the mandate exists. It doesn't exist at this point, which is the reason that there hasn't been lawsuits on this yet, because you can't sue a speech. And so it's now going just through the process of them trying to be able to determine what they're going to do. And they're finding out just how hard this is, where truck drivers across the country are saying, I'm not going to do it. And then we're going to have serious supply chain issues, even more so than what we have now in federal agencies and even in our National Guard. We have a lot of individuals that are saying, hey, if I'm compelled to do this, I'm just not going to do this. This is going to cause a national security issue. It's going to cause supply chain issues. It's going to cause all kinds of problems across our entire economy. And a lot of folks that are great employees in every area that would just say, I've already had COVID. There are 40 million Americans that have. They have natural immunity, or they'll say, listen, I'll wear a mask. I'm not going to do the vaccine for whatever reason or religious exemptions. They need to be respected on this. But right now, Fauci and the president and multiple others are saying, I'm your dad. You're going to do what I tell you to do. And that's just not who we are as Americans.
Senator, very quickly, we're up against a break. The music is starting here. But could it be that the pushback, what we're seeing in New York with people being leaving the job, healthcare workers, could that cause the White House to be rethinking this mandate?
I hope it does, and you're going to see this just in hospitals, but you're going to see this across the entire economy where people just say, I'm going to do something else, and it's going to cause major problems, and the president should pay attention to what's actually happening across the fruited plain.
How can folks get behind the bill that you have? How can they help you?
Well, they can reach out to our office. We're at lankford.senate.gov. They want to reach out to us and get more information there, or they can contact their own senators and say, hey, let's get behind the Lankford ending vaccine mandates to be able to block the Biden executive order to make sure that doesn't go into effect.
All right. Senator, thanks so much for being with us.